Welcome everyone to the final round of the Prague Masters 2026. On your screen is the Czech legend David Navara. He's had an amazing tournament but faces now Aravindh Chithambaram in the final round. Aravindh has made a strong comeback in this tournament, and there you see a respectful stand from the table, from the chair by David Navara. Arvind has managed to beat Hans Niemann here. He's managed to beat Gukesh and Jordan Van Forest, and now takes on David Navara in the final round. And David has had a very good event here. He beat Parham Maksudlu, Nodirbek Yakuboev, was unbeaten until round 7, fighting for the top spot, but then lost to Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the penultimate round, and now in the final round takes on Aravindh Chithambaram. A handshake there, and we are ready to rock and roll. Aravindh cleans the table and opens the game with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5. And now knight to f3 played by Aravindh. We go knight c6, defending the pawn, and bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight to f6. The Italian game is on the board. Wow, this is going to be very exciting now, because we've seen a lot of Rui Lopez's in this tournament. It's good to see the Italian and the slow Italian with d3. Leads to very complex positions. David goes d6. And now one way to play is like knight d2, castles, very calmly, a4, maybe gain some space. But Aravindh goes for the sharp line, which involves pinning the knight on f6, a6 played here, just waiting, but at the same time creating a luft for the bishop to go back. Knight comes out to d2, getting the knight into the game. And now pawn to h6. Now notice, if you take on f6, then there's no point of going with your bishop to g5. So you have to come back to h4, keeping the pin in the position. And now pawn to g5 is a playable move. He goes bishop a7 first, keeping this option open. And will Aravindh castle now, is the question. Yes, he does. He is in his preparation still. He castles it out. And David, he can also castle here, but he first plays queen to e7, which is a logical move. Just improving the queen's position, maybe wanting to go bishop e6 and take with the queen. b4 by Aravindh, gaining space on the queen side. And one idea is a4, b5, just gaining more space. And he goes pawn to g5. Now generally, knight takes g5, edge g5, bishop g5 could be dangerous, but here black hasn't castled, can simply go rook g8 and black is winning. So Aravindh calmly brings his bishop back to g3, he's like no sacrifices. But now with this structure, you are usually aiming for d4 break, and the knight goes to h7 with the idea of knight f8, knight g6, also h5, h4, b5. Aravindh is very quick to create play on the queen side. First David takes, and I think rightly so. Takes, bishop takes. And now if you try to play h5, it's possible white will meet it with h4, g4 and knight e1. This is possible to play. So first David castles, getting out of the pin. And you can see like a two-way approach. He's not going all in for the attack. He played at 6 g5, then even castles, and now a4 played, because Aravindh is trying to create play with a5 and a6. Okay, f5 played by David, and maybe a very, very shaky move. Is generally you want to play something like h5, h4, but f5, of course you take it, because f4 would have trapped the bishop. Takes, and now bishop takes f5 possible, but he goes queen g7. A very creative play by David for sure. And now a5 pushed. He pushes his pawn forward, pawn to a5, and h5 played. Interesting. h5 with the idea of h4 trapping the bishop. But he goes pawn to h4. Now, these pawns are kind of, have a decision to make. Goes g4. Okay, if you have to get passive like knight e1, black should be doing very well with knight e7, knight f5. But of course, Aravindh goes for f6. And the point is, if you take with the knight, I get the g5 square. If you take with the rook, I go knight g5 after take. Then knight e4 comes with a fork. Wow, that's deep. He takes with the rook. And knight g5 played. Man, Aravindh Chithambaram, so tricky here. Takes on g5. hg. By the way, keep an eye on the time. We are on move 20 and Aravindh has only 16 minutes. David has 25 minutes. It's going to lead to a crazy complicated time scramble. Now knight e4 seems like a good move, defending this pawn. But Aravindh, he goes a6. Oh, he's going for it. Take here would lose the knight on c6. So a6, a very, very good move. And now queen to g5. One idea could be now knight e4, queen e7, ab, bishop b7 and bishop a6 with a clear advantage because all this pin is terrible. But instead he goes rook a4. He's trying to keep some pressure over here on the g4 pawn. The rook goes back. By the way, there was no h4 in the air because of rook takes g4. But now that the rook has gone back, the bishop starts controlling the g4 square. And knight e4 is the best move. But he goes rook to c4. He's putting pressure here. But now h4 should be strong. h4, you don't want to be going back with your bishop to h2. There are tactics with rook f2, bishop f2 and g3 can get very, very wild here. And I think David has to go for that wild stuff. But with 11 minutes on the clock, can he do that? 3 minutes for Aravindh. No, he goes knight a5. And he's given up his c7 pawn. Aravindh takes it. But now h4. Just go for it. He goes b takes a6 first. But the best move now is bishop c6. Play here and after knight takes, check, or even knight e4 and then pick this up with d6 pawn being very weak. But Aravindh goes bishop d7. He wants to trade the bishops. If bishop takes, I go rook takes. And Aravindh has 2 minutes 52 seconds. David has 3 minutes 48 seconds. So intense, this final game. Takes. Rook takes, and now the only move is h4. You have to play it, good or bad, because your position is disintegrating. This is coming, d6 is weak. Yes, h4 played by David. And now bishop f2, bishop h2. Must takes. And now this tactic with rook f2, bishop f2 can be very strong, but he goes directly g3. He wants to win a piece. Knight e4. Aravindh is like, be my guest, because this is weak. He first takes. So now black is a piece up. King h1. Aravindh doesn't touch the pawn. And queen f5, the best move. But after rook d6, what's starting to happen here is that the black king is weak. a6 pawn is weak. Knight on e4 is strong. Knight on a5 is out of the game. He goes knight b7. The best move somehow was bishop e3. Very tough. You can't take here because of queen f1. But knight b7 attacks the rook. It's logical. But what he's missed here is rook h6. Then these pawns fall. Queen b3 check. Coming in, attacking here. Maybe queen b3. He wants to go queen f7. He goes for a check. The knight is hanging. So you have to perhaps block with the queen. Yes. Rook f7 was met with an incredible rook f6. So queen f7 played. And now rook g6 check should be a good move. Look at Arvind, that sharpness in his eyes. 1 minute 29 seconds for him. He gives a check. And now king h8. And another check. Kind of a good idea. He takes first on f7. Arvind goes for the more pragmatic choice here. Rook takes. We are on move 33. 7 more moves to make. Rook a6. With a nasty pin. With the rook doubling over. Oh my goodness. Knight on e4. Unmovable. Unshakable. Okay, go knight d8. He finds it. First best move. Rook fa1. Maybe very logical. Brings his rook here. Attacking this bishop is already defended twice. He goes rook d7. Another good move. Looking at the d3 pawn. King takes h2. Takes the pawn. Black's move's quite difficult now. He plays rook c7. Waiting still. David being very accurate here. And now knight d6. A good move. A good move here. And he goes rook c6. A blunder because knight f7 check. The knight is defending the rook. You simply deflect it and rook takes c6. Will Arvind find it? 32 seconds only for him. He's coming down. He's going. Oh, it's so tough. It's so tough. He finds it. Knight f7 check. If knight takes, rook c6 is winning. The two rooks for against a rook and two pieces should not work. And now knight e5. Take this pawn. But Arvind blunders. Well, blunder is a bit too strong, but not the best move. Rook takes. Rook takes. And now a very important move for David. e4. Because he sets up a check and picking up the rook. Oh, he finds it. Finds it. And you can see Arvind there. Maybe he's not happy at all. Because now he can't move the rook away. Rook takes, knight hangs. If he plays rook d6, there's bishop b8. Pinning the rook here. Oh my god. And look at Arvind. Ooh, not a happy feeling because it's the 40th move and now he has 30 minutes. And he's like, oh, I should have done something else. Because his position was winning. David is gone. Arvind thinks and now takes on a7 after 10 minutes. David comes back quickly with a cup of tea. The game is still very intriguing from the perspective that will the knight outwit the rook with 3 extra pawns? D takes e4, taken. And now king g7. He brings his king up ahead. This position is drawn, but black has to play carefully. Rook a3, rook c3 is one weakness to attack. Well, Arvind has the trump cards. He plays f3. If he goes king h3, king h4, he should be able to have excellent chances with his 3 extra pawns. Rook a3. That's a mistake. He had to play rook a6. Limiting the knight. Rook a3 might seem like, oh, there's no way to now save this pawn. But not really. Knight e6 check is the best move. And look at Arvind's focus there. He knows that you have to utilize every single chance you get. He goes knight e6 check. And now king h6. I just go king h3 and take this. So he goes king f6. But the problem now is from f4 to d5 there comes a check. So you can't take the pawn. Rook c3, knight d5 is a fork. So he goes rook a1. If king h3, maybe he wants to give a check. Or maybe, oh, look at this. Maybe there's some tactics. King h3, king g5 and then rook h1 could be a mate potentially. So he first gives a check. King e5 played. There was also a possibility to play king g5, but then maybe g3, and then you start rolling these 3 pawns. So king e5, c4 by Arvind, rook c1 going after the pawn. And while you will get this pawn on c file, you will lose the h pawn. And Arvind very smartly deflects the rook from the last rank, so that if rook takes c5, he goes king h3, king h4, rook c5. King h3, taking here on h4. Rook c2 played. And now knight to e3. And now if rook e2, I have knight to f5 winning this pawn. So he goes rook c1. But now king takes h4. This is winning for Aravindh. Very winning. Rook e1. Knight comes up to d5. And we have a check. King to g3. And slowly these 3 pawns should be able to outwit the rook. 3 pawns and the knight. But there's everything to play for. Mistakes do happen in these endgames. Both players have already gone low on time. Aravindh has 6 minutes. David has 2 minutes 53 seconds. Rook goes back. And now the idea is check. Yes. Push the king away. Then bring the king up. Slowly start mobilizing your pawns. So king d4. So king comes up to f4. Rook f8 check. And king g5. He brings his rook up to f7. Look at how David has sort of put all his pieces perfectly together. White pieces there. King g6. Rook f8. And now this lovely move knight f6, which takes control of the g8 square. And slowly you want to start pushing your pawns. Rook a8. It pushes forward with f4. The pawn is protected. f5, g4, g5. The pawns have started to roll. Well, firstly, he goes king f5. Because f5 was also possible. King f4 a little bit tricky. So first king f5. Be careful. Rook check. And now e5 looks logical. But you can also bring your knight in and give a counter check. Nice move. And if the king moves, g4, g5. Start pushing. King f2. Go for g4. And he plays pawn to g4. King comes up to g3. And it's time for g5 as well. And white pawns are just too strong. g6, g7, g8 coming. e5 pawn can move forward. King can even come up. David Navara is lost there. He resigns, getting up always respectfully. And he wants to tell Aravindh something about the game. And Aravindh is like, there was definitely a lot of excitement in the game. But I must say that the creative energy shown by both the players in this game was absolutely amazing. With Aravindh playing on the queen side, David playing on the king side, David winning a piece, Aravindh finding some great resources. Then that move e4 in the middle game when all hell broke loose in the center with this discovered check and all. And then the knight versus rook endgame where there could have been a potential draw but going wrong. Man, how much more can this game of one game of chess include? And that's why we say that both David and Aravindh are magicians on the board, and we really tip our hat in front of them. Thank you guys for creating this brilliancy in the last round. Yes, you did not finish on the top, but you created something truly magical. Aravindh finishes third in the tournament with a fantastic comeback. And David, well, he had a great tournament as well, gaining 11 rating points, scoring 4.5 out of 9. Kudos to both of them.